arms and cry like the little bitch you are!
Okay, so you're probably wondering how I got into this situation with a big ass teddy bear feasting on my body as you're currently seeing. Well, it all started with me going to the lovely town of Strawberry and getting acquainted with a few awkward individuals. So, I was making my way downtown until I stopped by the local inn to see what the fuss was all about. Only then would I realize that I've walked into an ongoing feud that will lead to me making a horrible decision on my part, and thus, this is where the madness begins. To make this a long story short, we'll just keep the introductions to a bare minimum. This is Gus McMillan, a trader who makes a living from hunting game around the United States and crafts various items and equipment from the pelts and carcasses of the different species of animals that he's killed off for his own personal gain. He's basically what I envision as every hardcore American who likes to solve their problem with guns. And this is that one guy who doesn't have a standing in this situation because he's practically useless and doesn't add any value to this DLC at all. And lastly, you are introduced to new best girl, Harriet Davenport, a hot, beautiful whack job of a tree hugger who has an undying love for the inhabitants of nature and is considered a witch by most people based off the practices that she utilizes when studying different animals. Basically, she's someone who I would simp for, despite the bullshit that I'll have to go through in the process. And if you thought Agatha from GTA Online was good looking, then congratulations, you now have competition. After the initial cutscene, you'll be given the option to pursue the role of the Naturalist, with a small fee of 25 gold bars because that's real helpful. This role allows for you to get in touch with your inner nature boy or girl and the local wildlife that you've seen in your previous adventures. You'll be able to study the natural habitats that each animal is located in, gather additional info based off the subject at hand, sedate said subjects for their blood sample, and sell it to Harriet for a small profit, but that's only one side of the coin. Because Gus expressed his love for murdering innocent creatures, he graciously gives you the choice to do business with them on the side. In this case, you'll basically just be hunting animals for their pelts and carcasses and proceed to sell them to Gus for a profit as well. To make it worth your while, he even creates certain clothing or trinkets for you as long as you have both the money because it's pricey as shit, as well as the specific ingredients that he needs, some of them being certain collectibles that you may have come across before. If any, this is basically the same concept that you've done in the single player campaign, except it's online, and people will probably get tired of it in a week or two, but that's really nothing new. Just be careful when getting prepared, as you may unexpectedly find yourself getting tossed in the air with no explanation whatsoever.
This bitch is empty!
Since most of the player base has probably already completed both the role and the battle pass that came with it, this is not an in-depth expert guideline. If any, this is to help those get an understanding as to how the role works and the bullshit that comes along with it, just like what we dealt with in the previous roles. In no way is this a tutorial on how to level your role quickly, so without further ado, let's go ahead and break this shit down. In a nutshell, with the Naturalist role, you're either working for PETA by drugging animals to a point of comatose and stealing their blood without their consent, or you're just straight up killing furries for some quick cash. Either way, you're going to hurt animals in the process altogether. There is no gray area. After getting your samples kit from Harriet while tripping balls at the same time, you'll also be given an animal field guideline booklet to record the data for each creature that you come across from different habitats, as well as a map depicting the locations of legendary animals. But we'll discuss this section later on, since this process is going to be both tedious and aggravating, but once again, painful but nothing new. Pursuing the role of the Naturalist enables you to study the different species of animal in their local habitats, whether it be in the open fields of the Heartlands, the wet forests of Lemoyne, or even the dry deserts of New Austin. Based off the information the guideline gives you, which is located on the left side of the screen mind you, you'll be given a few side objectives as you're hunting animals. This consists of not only studying them, but to also track down the subject, and if you're able to, photograph their appearance for future references. Afterwards, the deciding factor of sedating or killing the subject comes into play. In order to sedate an animal, you'll need to equip the varmint rifle that's loaded with the special .22 sedation ammunition. This will allow for you to put the animal in a state of comatose and allow for you to collect their blood sample with no signs of resistance. You can either buy the ammo from Harriet while she's at her camp, which is located in different areas around the map, collect it off the dead corpse of dead poachers, gather them from promotion deals that Rockstar has at the time available, or you can craft them yourself when you buy the recipe pamphlet. When shooting your target of choice, be wary as it'll take a few shots before the effects of the drug kick in. This is indicated by the maroon hit marker that you would see when you critically injure an opponent, as well as a small chime that plays out when done successfully. From my experience, it usually takes about 1 to 3 shots for small animals, roughly 5 to 8 shots for medium-large animals, and damn near 11 to 12 shots for animals that have a huge girth in their appearance, aka the big boys. This usually applies to bears, bison, ox, or anything else that fits in that category. If you use it on small birds or critters, they'll die as if they were hit by the .22 caliber ammunition, so I'd rather you don't waste your ammo on them. After collecting a blood sample, you now have the choice to revive the animal from a state of comatose. Doing so will give you honor points as well as extra experience for the naturalist role. Be cautious, however, as over time, animals that are hit with the sedatives will regain consciousness and proceed to escape in the allotted time, that is unless they're floating in the water, I guess. If you happen to revive a predator, there's a solid chance that they will come back after you as they did before, so FYI. Should you choose to do so, you can also collect different blood samples up to 10 times from regular animals. For legendary animals, however, you can only collect their blood sample up to 3 times. And one thing that I will mention that will help you out in the long run is the blending tonic. This basically makes you invisible to them and allows for you to creep up on animals without giving away your scent. That way you can capture them fairly easy. Legendary pheromones are good, but only when dealing with legendary animals themselves, and don't even get me started on the other tonics because, you know, pricey. After this process, you can now sell the samples back to Harriet for a price depending on which animal it is. What she'll use it for, I don't know, but who cares, she's fucking gorgeous. Anywho, after selling the samples, you'll be given a stamp in your guideline for the animal that you've collected from. Once you acquire stamps for every animal within a specific section, you'll be given the choice to sell the collection to Harriet for some cash. This applies to both regular and legendary animals. Just like with the role of the collector, once you've sold a stamped section, you'll have to repeat the entire process of collecting the blood samples again should you choose to do so. Once again, this is where the tedious part comes in. This is going to be a drag for the long run, especially for those of you who want to maximize how much profit they can make out of this role. Just saying this now that if you're not interested in spending a lot of time doing the same shit over and over and over again, then you might as well just treat this as a one and done scenario. If you wish to gain extra experience, you could always participate in the poacher missions either given to you by Harriet or by finding them in the open world. In this case, you're given a location to where the poachers have captured a couple of animals, whether they be herbivores or predators. You'll need to eliminate the poachers and free the animals from their cages, simple as that. For a little extra something, I always kill every enemy and loot their body to see if I can get something good before letting the animals go. It's also noteworthy to peek inside the cage and see which animal that you're dealing with. It's also a good opportunity to sedate the animal and collect their blood sample if you haven't already. For the hunting aspect, since animals actually spawn more frequently now, thank Christ, you just do what you would normally do when hunting game, except this time, once you gather the ingredients that you need, you can now sell them to Macmillan for not only a small profit, but to also craft certain clothing and equipment should you choose to do so. But before we go any further, a quick service announcement. You can only choose between killing the animal or sedate them for their sample. You cannot do both at the same time. If you sedate an animal, their pelt and carcass become useless and you'll have to find another animal of that species. If you happen to kill and skin them, you will not be able to draw their blood since it will be gushing out anyway. In this case, you cannot have it both ways. Once again, gray area. Take note that your pelts and carcasses have to be in the perfect condition in order for you to actually unlock the item of choice that you seek. You might also want to remember that the shit's going to be uber expensive, so you might want to save up on some cash and gold beforehand. If it makes you feel any better, once you have sold a specific item to Macmillan, he'll keep it for you whenever you are ready to make a purchase. Just like in the single player campaign, trinkets make their way back into Red Dead Online as well, and each one has a different ability attached to it. In order to use these, you'll need 3 things: cash, lots of it, specific accessories that you get from from animals like antlers, teeth, claws, and all that shit, and you'll need to gather specific collectibles. Once you have all these in your possession, you'll be able to get them with little to no problem. The garment sets are different as they are only available for purchase when you happen to skin a legendary animal, whether it be in the side quest missions given to you from Harriet or by finding them in the different free roam sessions. For the most part, they look very decent. They look nice. Kind of awesome, really. It's awesome to have a wolf above your head, but it's up to you if you want to buy them or not. One note that I did forget to mention, however, is that Harriet apparently knows when you happen to kill an animal, which sounds ridiculous since she claims that other animals inform her of this. That and the message where you get while doing so. If you happen to kill too many animals, and yes, this includes fucking predators because that makes total sense, a cutscene will play out showing her frustration, and not only will she refuse to do business with you for a short amount of time, but she'll also spray that weird voodoo shit on you that makes you trip on acid. Once again, there is no gray area with this role.
You've got some nerve! You think that I wouldn't find out? You're no better than that savage Macmillan.
Lastly, we come across the legendary animals, and let me tell you, they are a goddamn pain to deal with. Just like humans, animals can be complete dickheads to you, whether they decide to gang up on you and try to eat your body, or just decide to ram you for no fucking reason while you're minding your own business.
Now you fucked up!
But legendary animals are on a whole different scale. In addition to the map that you received, once you have reached rank 5 in a naturalist role, you'll be able to participate in certain missions that allow for you to hunt them down. Harriet will send you to a certain part of the map in order to locate the legendary animal, and once you gather the necessary info and found them, you can either choose to sedate them for their blood sample or kill them for their pellet. Legendary animals are much more tougher than the regular animals, as well as more aggressive. Well, some of them at least. This means you'll have to be particularly cautious when coming to their territory. At most points, you'll have to deal with the competition and gather what little info you can from them before wiping them out. Other times, you'll be forced to fight any of the legendary animals' companions that are in the surrounding area. Never in my entire life would I have imagined that 15 beavers would try to fuck me up for going after their boy, but I guess it is what it is at this point. Few things that you need to be wary of. The animals can escape if you do not catch them in time, so do not let that happen. You cannot lasso them as they will drag your ass around like a broken ragdoll. And most importantly, please do not use any weapons that can ruin their pelt. This includes anything that's related to explosives, anything that's related to fire, and toxic moonshine. Not only will you fail the mission, but you won't get jack shit at all. So, once again, don't make that mistake. In addition to this, you can complete these missions as many times as you want, but take note that once you happen to collect the maximum amount of blood samples from a certain legendary animal, you cannot go after that animal again until you sold them, as far as I've experienced. They also change every 45 minutes, so be sure to pick which one you decide to hunt down, but there are alternative methods to this. The new freedom events, wild animal tagging, and protect the legendary animal are ideal if you want to kill some time. The latter has you cooperating with other players to sedate specific animals. Once you sedate an animal of choice, you then have to tag that animal and fill up the gauge at the top of the screen. Once the gauge has been filled, everyone will see that animal's blood sample. Legendary animals will pop up along the way, so you can also collect their blood sample when someone manages to put them in a state of comatose. The former, on the other hand, is basically what it sounds like. All you have to do is free the animal from their cage, escort them to a certain location, and once completed, everyone will receive that creature's blood sample. That, and you also have to exterminate any poachers that may try to harm the animal of choice. One thing to jot down is that if you're protecting an animal that's a predator, then you might want to steer clear of its path. They will chew your ass down should you be in their range. The good thing about this is that even if you do die, you'll still get the reward as long as the other players don't die, or if you don't rage quit out of the session, so be sure not to kill yourself like I have done, and all should be good. Before we end the video, if you're still watching that is, legendary animals will also appear in free roam sessions during a certain time of the day, or when there's a specific change in the weather. Once you're in the designated area and have spent some time there, you'll be given a notification that the animal is skulking around. However, for some unknown reason, for those of you, including myself, who have reached over rank 15 in the naturalist role, will have a hard time finding any of the legendary animals available in the free roam sessions. How do I explain this? Apparently, once you reach rank 15, you'll be given the ability to locate legendary animals much more often, but that doesn't happen to be the case since it happens to be bugged for some of us. It damn near took me almost 3 hours IRL to find any of them, and when I did, on 3 separate occasions for the exact same animal, it all went to shit. I'm pretty sure that Rockstar has taken note of this and possibly may have put in a hotfix for it as I'm making this video, but we'll just have to see it with our own eyes. But other than that, I hope you guys managed to have learned a few things, and I appreciate you watching this video. Love you all and have a good day. Peace.